Welcome to this edition of the Wonderbury Podcast.
I'm Brian.
I'm Dave.
And you can find us online at wonderbury.com.
I'm D. Wonderly on Twitter.
Or I'm Brian Keysbury, anywhere the internet can be found.
You can leave us a comment on our website. Check for a link in the description.
Yes. And this week,
Brian
we have
and
special
Brian.
Guest. Yeah. Got two Brians.
Hello, guys.
How you doing this evening, Brian's?
I never had anybody warp in here before. First time I've seen that.
That's just how we do these things.
We have such a huge travel budget. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, but don't ask me about my food budget.
Yeah. Oh.
So, Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Brian Scherschel, and I've created a little podcast called Kaiju Vision Radio.
Sweet.
And let's see, we've known each other for a while here, but yours got a little bit done quicker than ours did.
It did. I seem to remember doing some writing for yours at one point in time.
Yeah, and then that promo trailer's been up for a long time.
Yeah. And the link to the trailer will be also in the description, so as well as every other link for Brian's podcast. So, what is it about?
Well, thanks for having me on too. This is
yeah,
a great opportunity.
Thanks.
But
Thanks for allowing us
I'm
to
co-hosting
invade your
this,
basement.
Yeah. This is where the nerve center is. This is where our podcast is produced.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good to be here, and I'm co-hosting this with a local author named Nathan Marchand, and he is really a good guy to meet. We've been really glad to put this together. But it's called Kaiju Vision Radio, and it's a podcast about the kaiju, and it's a word, Japanese word for strange beast, and it's basically the name that they use for the genre of Japanese giant monster films,
Which is mainly Godzilla, but then also like Mothra and correct.
Yeah, there are already 29 films in this franchise. It's the most number of movies in any franchise that I know of. It started all the way back in 1954. It's 30 Japanese movies eventually here, because there's another one coming out this year, plus the original Rodan, the original Mothra, and then by the time 2020 rolls around, we will have a total of 6 American Godzilla movies. So it's very prolific. It's more than James Bond, even, which that's a lot of movies.
Yeah, Bond.
Wow.
Yeah. Man. Are there any series that have more films to them than what the Kaiju series does?
I can't really think of any. I mean, not especially in movies as opposed to like multiple episode television, but this is definitely the most theatrical I've seen in any series. It's a lot to cover.
Yeah, I'll say. So how does your guys' the podcast, what type of podcast is it? Is it like a in-depth review? Is it what type of podcast are you looking for the Godzilla or the Kaiju movies?
Well, it's sort of a hybrid. It's a hybrid of a movie podcast, because there are certain things you got to do when you do a movie podcast and what you want to try to cover, but at the same time, it's also like an in-depth movie appreciation. And we're also, since these are foreign movies, we're looking into how to actually integrate some of the issues that these movies bring up, because there are a lot of them actually, and I think partially it's because of the education I've had, and it's kind of, everybody looks at a movie and can conclude different things. But it seems like these movies really well, I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't really like them a lot. But right now, it'll be sort of maybe sort of social, economic, political issues that we discuss along with the actual in the actual episodes. But then we also pretty much review them. We give everybody our opinions on it. At the beginning, we have what would be it's like a short description. Instead of like summarizing, we're going to be trying to describe them more, because when you have this many movies in a franchise and there's this many different kinds of Godzilla movies out there, you want to try to know how to actually describe these, because they're so incredibly different from each other.
So,
but right now, the way that we have it worked out role-wise is Nate is a local author. He's written a book, an actual novel about kaiju. But he is coming at this from more of like a nerd geek fandom perspective, and as well as a writer's perspective. But then I will be going at this from more of like an international relations, history, film lover background. And so it's sort of a mix of two different perspectives. Right now, what I'm going to be doing is editing, and that is hell of a process.
Yes, it is.
It's great though. You get a lot of experience. You get to really figure it out. It's a lot of time. But then I also mostly design the website and the RSS feed. And then once we start releasing episodes, which will be relatively soon, we will have Nate, and he'll be helping to post the episodes and act as our social media / website guy who'll get everything posted. But it's been a really long journey, and I think it's been successful. We'll see how it goes.
So you said relatively soon, but do you have a date set for the first episode release?
Yeah, we have actually figured it out. Pretty soon we'll be starting the countdown to the premiere of the first episode, and we're dubbing it G Day. It'll be the episodes will come out on Wednesdays at noon Eastern. And we will start our countdown. It'll be, I think, we'll start our 4-week countdown in about a week, and so it'll be coming up pretty soon. We're going to be on YouTube, iTunes, Google, Google Play Music, same thing that I listen to you guys on, Blueberry, Stitcher, TuneIn, and people can also subscribe to the podcast via RSS feed.
Nice.
Awesome.
The YouTube channel, it'll actually have a lot of videos on it. It'll be, instead of like a static logo or something for a podcast, we're actually going to have video to go along with all the episodes on YouTube. And so YouTube is going to be my preferred way to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of the way we do this too, is we have a lot of the audio side, and then we have obviously the video for our audio listeners. That's what he's reacting to in the beginning.
Yeah.
As well. For
I really like
side.
how your YouTube.
Yeah, if you've never seen us on YouTube, you're missing out. I'm pretty sure I leave the teleporter sound in, but we teleport in Star Trek style to every episode, and then at the end we get beamed out just in time. And eventually we'll hopefully make that more dramatic with some stuff.
I am getting much better at After Effects, so we can do some very dramatic looking stuff eventually.
Cool. But it's hard. It's hard trying to balance video for what should be a podcast, and I find myself like while we're in the middle of an episode, like saying or doing something, and then I'm like, how do I do this and not alienate the listener? But I like how you guys have set up, because you're not doing a video of you, and I have a little bit of background with Brian in knowing how he's setting up, but you're having your scenic view and have it correlate to the movie in a way, while just having the audio over that without any actual video of you guys. I think that will translate a lot nicer, especially for your guys' type of audio. So I'm excited. I'm excited for
Yeah,
that.
we'll be unveiling the our YouTube channel pretty soon, and it'll be it'll be actual videos of stuff that will hopefully be enough of eye candy. We hope that it'll be something better than just looking at a static image, because it's YouTube. You want to do some kind of video. I like the way you guys do yours too. I like it looks really good.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's
Most
a
days.
really good idea.
When we're not screwing everything up.
Yeah.
So I know that you and I, Brian, have talked for a while about your podcast doing this, and I helped you with the trailer a little bit. But how long have you guys actually been planning this?
Well, we've been planning for about 18 months. It's been a while that we've been going at this. I reminded Nate just today of, oh my gosh, it's been this long. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I figured if we're going to make this podcast, that I want to do it right. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we ended up doing. And he's come around to that opinion too. And it's like, well, we could have done this after 6 months, but I don't know if we would have had as much of a grip on the issues and the, just how to talk about these movies.
Yeah, because your guys' podcast is more of an informational,
special,
whereas ours is very conversational. So you have to do a lot more research per episode than we've ever put together for anything that we've recorded so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything you have to do in a movie podcast, plus even more.
Yeah. So
the second part of each episode we have, that'll be our more conversational opinion thing, where we sort of go back and forth about what we liked in them. Mostly it's about what we liked in them, actually, because we want to try to appreciate these movies on a really totally different level than what's out there right now.
Yeah. So are you going to cover like one movie per episode, or are you spanning multiple episodes per movie then?
We'll be doing a 1 episode per movie.
So you guys pretty much then will have a finite amount of episodes you guys are planning. So what's after this?
We haven't totally decided yet. Once we finish this first run, which it'll be released over a pretty long time, but once we've finished that, we'll have about hopefully a couple of months in order to go to the next Godzilla conference, which is called G-Fest, and it's normally held in Rosemont, Illinois by O'Hare. And so that's usually in July. And so we'll have a couple of months to sort of gather ourselves after this long amount of work, and then we'll show up in Chicago, and we'll see what kind of reception we get and how much feedback we get over the time that we're releasing them, and maybe by then we'll be able to decide what else we're going to do, because there's a lot of different avenues you can go after this. I mean, there's a lot more kaiju films out there, of course. There's also a lot of other Japanese films out there too, which I love Japanese movies a lot. I know Nate does too, and so that's another route that we could go. We could also go into more like of the American kaiju movies, or we could just concentrate on the sort of non-Godzilla movies that we didn't cover in the first run. Okay. We'll see.
Would you think about even branching out and doing like completely different, like even doing the Bond series with the with that series specifically? It seems like there's a lot of tie-in to, current events throughout the timeline of when they were shot. Specifically, a lot with what was going on with the UK and different things. But do you think your guys' style could suit another, like a completely different series like that?
Perhaps. I mean, I know that both Nate and I love the Bond movies too. There are a lot of really good ones, and like it's sort of like Godzilla too. Everybody's got their favorite, but there's many, many different flavors of Bond, just like there are many different flavors of Godzilla, and they do cover some interesting issues. It is definitely an option. I think that with my connection to so many different movies and like foreign films and stuff like this, and plus Nate's ability with things like the fan community and comics and Comic-Con, he's going to be at Gen Con in Indy next week. Actually, he'll be going to that. But we've had some ideas about what to do in the future, and it's like, well, and I just sort of thought, well, let's get done what we have on our plate now. You know, the biggest, longest movie series in the world. I think we end up having a lot of work now, and we'll see how exhausted we are when we're done with this run.
Yeah. Well, if you guys ever decide to branch off into Star Trek, let me know.
Yes, we both like Star Trek a lot, and I'll be watching the new show.
Yeah,
too.
no, you guys don't.
Definitely.
You guys leave our show alone. We do a fine job of discussing Star Trek on our own.
So, how long will your episodes be? Are they going to be you try to target a certain time frame, or are you just going to do it as long until you run out of stuff to talk about the film?
Well, some of these movies I think are going to have more to say than some of the others. Mm-hmm. I think part of it depends on how like big, quote unquote, that particular movie is, because some of these movies, they resonate more with the fan community than others, or like parts of the fan community, because some of these Godzilla movies, they're for like a younger audience, and some of them are for literally a children's audience. And so it's like, okay, what are we going to say about these? Because like, I wish that I would have been able to see these kids movies when I was the appropriate age. I don't know what I would have thought it would have been. I think it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, I've seen this movie when I was 25 for the first time, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna really do with this? Some of the movies, they give us a little bit more meat as far as interesting subject matter, like just issues that they go after, or the issues that were going on when the films were released. And so I think that's what it depends on, how much we have to say, and then how much the movie has to say about what we're interested in. Because I saw some of these movies, I think only about 2/3 of them were available to Americans in like 2005, 2006 or so. And I tried to get every movie that I could, and I still ended up with 1/3 of them unavailable. Now that is completely not the case. Americans can get every single one of these movies in the American market without having to do imports or anything like that. Almost all of them are on Amazon, if not all of them by now.
Like Amazon, so
that's good too.
Digital video, or Amazon purchasing DVDs or tapes?
Purchasing DVDs.
That's a good question. Some of them you can actually stream. Some of them are available off of various streaming services. Mm-hmm. Some of them, like we have Xfinity, and there are actually, I think, 8 of them or so that are available at any given time from there, from on demand. But some of them I think are still it's old school, where they print the limited run of DVDs or Blu-rays.
Yeah. And
then they once that printing is done and they're all gone, then then you can go to Amazon and find, okay, this DVD is $150 now. Okay. and unfortunately, when it's sort of like these are almost rare DVDs. Mm-hmm. At some point, or in the past they were considered rare DVDs, but now there are a lot more Blu-rays being printed. I think up to half, I think, of these movies now are available on nice, crisp, new Blu-rays. And
nice.
Some of them look fantastic, actually. But I think sometimes you just have to go on Amazon.com to get them. There's a DVD guide that we're going to actually be creating.
That was going to be my next question too. So awesome. G-Day.
Yeah, and it'll tell everybody. Nate's going to put that together. It's going to tell everybody where to get this, and what version, because we want to try to concentrate on getting these Japanese versions in, because that's most important to me too, is to see the real thing instead of seeing this dubbed, cut up, fill in the blank. Lots of things have been done to these movies over the years, and now finally we're starting to get a lot of really good Japanese versions. Turn the subtitles on, and away you go. And I think that's a way better way to experience these movies, because the dubbing it's like somebody erected a wall between you and the movie, because you have to put up with this dubbing.
It's an immediate
reading the subtitles.
It's an immediate break of the fourth wall when you have the dubbing, because your vocal and your visual don't line up at all, and that immediately snaps you out of, oh yeah, this is just a movie I'm watching. And when you do that, when you're immersed in a movie, you get a better sense and a better feel of it. But when you break that fourth wall, just nonchalantly,
you take an entire section of the actor out of it.
Yeah.
Half of acting is facial and reaction and body language, but the other half is your voice and the emotion conveyed.
Inflection.
And if you take that away, you've destroyed the original intent from the director. You've destroyed the actor's credibility, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead, and like some of these movies, the dubbing is actually okay, and it survives pretty well. But some of these that were done during various eras, it's like, oh man, what is this? This is just totally not allowing me to immerse myself in this movie at all.
Yeah.
And it's like the movie's fighting you.
Yeah.
and so like, yeah, it's great to have dubbing if you're 10 years old. That I can see dubbing still having some kind of a relevance. Or like if you're a young kid and you want to do one of the kids' movies, I think that'd probably be okay, instead of making your 4-year-old try to read all these subtitles across the screen for an hour and a half. Once you get past that age, though, once you get past that age, though, I just don't see much of relevance, because I want to hear what the actual actors are saying. That's really important. But also, like, the actors are the ones that know how to do it. They were the ones that learned their lines, and they did it best. So I think it's partially just giving respect to the material. And like, these movies are, I think over time, some people consider them to be in the public domain practically, because for a while that the property wasn't as protected as it could have been. But now that has completely changed. And now we have all of these movies available from the right places, even though it's from different producers. You can still get a hold of them a lot more easily. And I think having that Japanese version, it makes it more authentic. It's a foreign film anyway, right? So why are we bothering to mess around with dubbing these movies? And yet, like a Kurosawa movie, nobody's doing that. I mean, nobody's going to think of trying to dub a Kurosawa film. It's going to look horrible or sound horrible.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, why don't we just respect these movies the same way as all the other Japanese movies? Makes sense.
Yeah. So will your episodes have clips from the movies, or do you guys have licensing issues with utilizing clips, or are you just hoping that U.S. fair use will translate to Japan just fine?
We aren't relying one infinitesimal bit on fair use. I think what we're trying to do is, and that's another thing, we want to give the movies a lot of respect, so we're not going to be cutting to all these clips and all this music and all this other stuff. I mean, the music would probably be okay, but there are other podcasts that do that a lot better, and so we'll let them do that. But the films, we're not going to show any clips. We won't have any audio or video clips, and so we'll rely on, since thankfully these movies are more available, we'll rely on people to find them on their own. And then then I think it also is more likely that anybody who listens to our podcast will have seen the movie already. And so there's that too. I mean, we imagine that they already saw it before, and we're going to guess that they like it for the most part.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know very, people who listen to podcasts about movies that they despise.
No, I do every once in a while just to understand why, but I'm weird.
Oh, I mean, I really love the Plinkett series on YouTube, where the guy who did the Star Wars movies and the Star Trek movies and all these other things, and then the same guys that do Half in the Bag on YouTube, but they were really good. But I think they can show the clips because they're going into such detail. But with us, we're going to go into that detail, but at the same time, we're going to really have a lot of respect for the copyrights, and we're going to let our viewers get copies of things that we need, and that's why we're doing the DVD guide too, is point everybody in the direction of, okay, this is the right release of this to buy, and get the Blu-ray of this, try to get this somewhere else, etc. But and then we got some music for the podcast too, that we have all the rights to, and so that way, for fair use. I think we've talked about this before, but fair use is not quite everything that it's cracked up to be.
Oh yeah,
once you learn,
it's extremely
about
narrow.
How things really work.
Yeah, we covered a whole episode on fair use.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, the scope and use of fair use is actually extremely narrow, and not what most people think fair use is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So,
right.
So we have here in Grand Rapids, we have a Grand Rapids Comic-Con. Are you guys going to be making an appearance at that? Since it says October 20th through 22nd, and that should be roughly a solid month after your first episode. You'd be about 4 or 5 episodes in. Would you guys be making an?
Yeah, we're going to. We're going to definitely consider going to Grand Rapids Comic Con, and I'm going to be working on editing here. But Nate is going to be at Gen Con. But Nate really loves the conferences a lot. I do too. I mean, I went to my first G-Fest. We both went to our first G-Fest this year in Chicago. But Nate is really good with the fan community, and he's my comic book expert too, because I'm a little bit comic deficient. So I let him fill in the gap of knowledge with regards to that. I think we would consider going to Grand Rapids Comic Con. I think maybe we can have Nate go. We'll see what we can do. There was one conference that we missed this year already. I can't remember where it was, but Nakajima, the man who was the first suit actor for Godzilla. He was in a really high number of the first movies that came out from 1954, and the last time he played Godzilla was in 1972. And just very recently here, he passed away. And I'm pretty sure he was in his 90s, age-wise, but or late 80s, I think, at least. But he was pretty up there. But we missed the opportunity to see him at one of the comic book conventions that he was at this year. That was very unfortunate. But we were pretty bummed out about that news, because he's one of the biggest for sure.
Yeah. Well, Brian.
Yeah, I really liked going to the Comic-Cons a lot more than I thought I would, actually. It was actually pretty fun.
They're a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a comic book fan or a superhero fan or a cosplay fan. If you like people watching, there are no better places to go than Comic-Cons. You see a little bit of
there were some
everything.
Incredible costumes.
I figured that out.
Yeah.
The first, I think it was 2015. That would have been like roughly a year after we moved here. We drove by the DeVos place, which is where the Comic-Con was at, and I saw Waldorf and Statler walking down the street, and it looked like they were bickering, and it was all I could do to just not get out and want to follow them around for the rest of the day. It was amazing. And
that's awesome.
I was just like,
Well, Brian. Yeah. Brian, we thank you for coming on with us tonight. This was a lot of fun, very informational, and all of it. Everyone, go check out Brian's podcast and his website.
That one.
All the relevant links will be down in the description. But
you're already checking out.
Yeah, kaijuvision.com.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get the links in, and
oh yeah,
as long as we remember.
And we'll definitely bring it up
that.
again once. We'll remind everyone too when they do release their episode, and they start the regular releases. We'll remind you guys to go check them out again, because I never really was big into to Kaiju or Godzilla or whatever films kind of growing up at all, and even recently, I think the problem is that the only image of Godzilla burned in my mind is Matthew Broderick, and I don't think that's a very good image to have burned in your mind.
No, the fan community did not react to that one very well.
But
first time I saw it, I thought I was going to black out from the pain I was experiencing.
But that's the time that we have for tonight. So until next week, Brian Kesey, I'll see you next week.
See you next week, buddy. We'll check it later, Brian.
See you guys.
See ya.
Yep.